Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. Dearly senior citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends, and welcome to this brand new day. And remember, no matter who you are valid. Thumbs up for that. It has been a day. I've already gone to Walmart. It is like not even noon, and I've been to Walmart because about a week ago, I think, time blindness, I turned in a prescription to get my gabapentin renewed and told them it wasn't a hurry. And then been able to get back there to pick it up. So I got there this morning, picked up my meds, walked on back, took a big old loop around, maybe 2.5 mile round trip. So I got to get out later today on more walkies, but I'm pretty happy with that. I'm adjusting my table there to make sure I'm centered because I used to have a soda bottle that I would brace my tablet on. I don't have sodas anymore because I don't drink them because phosphates in my kidneys, and so I'm having to find things to lean it against that won't just fall over. Thumbs up for that. Plus, it's up on a table type thing. Yay! I also have things written over on a list, and I want to talk about some. One of them, first off, there is Chris in the comments who says I should do something about cooking since I'm so into rice. Now, here's the issue. I wouldn't mind doing something like that, but I don't cook. The only reason I can do rice at all is because it's just dump rice and water in there, turn it on, and then ignore it. With my executive function and dysfunction issues, I have an issue with taking a step to do something. There are times that there are things that I want to do, but it takes a step up to do it, and making that step is sometimes just impossible because of my executive dysfunction issues. I may scream at myself all day to do something, but up here I can't do it, and so it just doesn't get done even though I'm screaming at myself to do it. And people with executive dysfunction issues know what I'm talking about there. With cooking, there's that step I have to take. I can't do it. That's why I use a microwave for just 99% of everything I eat, because it's dump it in a bowl, microwave it. I can do that. Anything that I have to take that extra step, like there's mashed potatoes that you can make that are microwave, but you have to put milk in them instead of water. I never buy those. I never use those because that's a step you have to take, and I can't get that step made. Those mashed potatoes will sit there on the shelf unused forever until years from now I finally throw them away because I can't take that step. And again, rice, I just measure out rice, put it in the bowl, put water in there, and then shut the lid, hit brown rice or white rice, and then I go and do stuff until it goes beep. So I can do that. Anything else, not really, no. Now the only things I do with it is I just, when I put the rice and the water in there, is just add some spices at the beginning, and then try to remember before it comes to a complete, roiling boil and just sits and warm, is to just sprinkle in a scattering of seasonings. I try to remember to get that done in time. I don't always. It's a step to season. So I'd like to show cooking, but my cooking is just dump rice in the bowl, dump water in the bowl, throw some spices into it to start, shut the lid, and hit cook. And that's it. That's the extent of my cooking. I mean, that would be like 5-10 seconds, and then I'm done. I'm done. The only thing, again, I try to do is about halfway through it is try to remember to get up, dump in some seasonings, and then shut it again. I can't do anything more than that. If I could, I would. I wish I could cook. That would be nice. It's just that step I can't take. I want to get the slow cooker. They give slow cookers in every room on top of the refrigerators when you first move in. I might be able to use a slow cooker along with this, maybe, depending on the step that you have to take to put stuff in the slow cooker. I don't know that I'd be able to, because you have to prepare the vegetables to put in. You have to prepare what you're going to put in. And that's a step that I don't know that I can take, because even though I've got the rice cooker, I got beans, all sorts of chili beans and beans that you mix in for like beans, rice, cheese, and you've got yourself a great mix. You can make a Mexican style or some sort of Asian style dish with that, and it's great. I have not opened up a single can of beans because that is a step that so far I have not been able to take. This is being shaken and moved all over the place, and I don't know where it originally was, so I'm going to try there. And so, yeah, they sit there, and I don't know when or if I'm ever going to be able to open them and use them, because as much as I may yell at myself to get up and do it inside of my head, executive function and dysfunction issues are real. Now, there is this person I watch on YouTube, Viced Rhino. He's mid-30s? Early 40s? I wouldn't put him that old, but he's been semi-recently, the past couple of years, diagnosed with ADHD. And his therapist has told him, you're just going to have to get used to having a dirtier house than you would like. In that he has issues with, if he throws a pair of socks at his dirty laundry hamper, they might not go in. And he tells himself, I need to pick those up and put them in the hamper. And then 2 hours later, when he goes by the hamper again, it's, I need to pick those up. They're still on the floor. And then at 3 o'clock that afternoon, still going, I need to pick those up. And then before you go to bed, they're still there. He's yelling at himself to do it, but can't. And if you've never had executive dysfunction issues like that, I don't know how to explain it further. Where it's just, you want to do something. You can be screaming at yourself inside of your head to do it, but you can't. And the only reason I can cook with rice is because that step is not there. So I wish I could show cooking. Thank you, Chris, for having faith in me. It is appreciated. It would take 15 seconds to show you what I do, and then it's done. Because after it's done, all I do is either throw some soy sauce on it and then eat it, or throw half a can of chili on it, and then some soy sauce and some Tabasco, and then eat it. It's nothing fancy, because fancy is a step I can't take. But these, with my executive function and dysfunction issues, I can do. So thumbs up on that. Also, here's a weird thing. Talking with my sister just the other day. She is borderline obsessive compulsive disorder, but she has the can't sit down and stay still portion of ADHD. I have the attention deficit disorder portion of ADHD. Traditionally, medically, men have the can't sit still, and women have the attention deficit. We're swapped. So I've got attention deficit. She's got the can't sit still, even now, approaching 60. So thumbs up for that. Just like even now in my early 60s, my attention deficit is worse than ever. I cannot even read properly. It is so hard to read instructions for any of the solo books and any of the solo board games I have, because it is hard to concentrate. Oh my God. But what else do I have on my list? Oh yes, here's one. I watch people reacting to goofy things videos. And one of them was, I can't even remember who it was that was, oh yes, it was Quite. If you watch Quite, he wears a green hoodie and a mask over the lower half of his mouth and glasses. And even though he had to like dox his own appearance some time ago, he's been able to come back from that, and it's good. But he was reacting to a bunch of cringe TikToks sent to him by his viewers, and it was on a stream. And at one point, there was somebody who was holding up an angry bird, doing Angry Bird impressions, and it was a big shiny thing. It looked like it was made out of plastic. And then he threw it, and it bounced off of the fender of a car, hit the ground, and shattered because it was made out of porcelain, ceramic. And the guy was just, all you could see was just his hand holding it, throwing it, and then reacting. And he was just like this with his hand going, "No! My Angry Bird!" And everyone on stream and quiet was going, what is he doing with his hand? This is like someone drawing a hand and not really being able to remember what a hand is like. And it's like, I understood exactly what was going on. I understood exactly the emotions being emoted by his hand. If you've ever watched any of my solo RPG stuff where I've only got a hand, I emote with my hand. If I have something shocking happen, I put my hand in an unusual position to show that I am so discombobulated that this has happened. I am so upset that I'm holding my hand like this. I am so this that this is happening. I am emoting with my hands because I can't emote with my face. And when I saw the guy emoting with his hands, I knew exactly how close he was to tears just by his hand shape and movements. No matter how neurodivergent or diverse you are, there is someone out there that understands you. Maybe not as a romantic partner, but you're not alone. In the midst of all these people laughing and not able to understand what was happening, I knew. I could tell the anguish, faked, but once you can fake sincerity, you know you've got it made. Yeah, but I could tell the emotions and such just from the emoting of his hand positions. You are seen and heard. Even if you don't get back feedback, you are seen and heard, no matter how neurodiverse you are. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Thumbs up for that. And then, pretty much the last thing I've got on my list over there is just talking about that setting thing that I've been working on, which one of my commenters said this is more like a book than an RPG setting. And yeah, that's one of the problems that I've got. I'm more interested in making up the backstory for this and all than actually playing it. I mean, I've got it to the point that, yeah, there's ice caps on both polar ends. And the humans, after splitting, there was a common ancestor between humans and elves. It was just like just an entirely elven race, and then something happened. The humans and the elves split off into this southern continent, rather like the Southern American continent on our world, more warm, temperate, equatorial, a lot of jungles, swamp areas, river, diverse life. It is warmer. Only down at the very lower edge does it get even cold. Now, that's not unusual for things to get cold, but up higher you wouldn't expect it to be that way. Down here on the very edge, it gets there because of the currents that are sweeping the cold water from the polar ice caps down there around that tip of the continent. And after things have changed over the last 20,000 years, they're moving upward, not because of land pressures, but because, hey, you know, people, when they hear about different things, you may have grown up in an area, but you hear that that's nicer. You know, you grew up in a desert, but maybe that place that's by a lake really sounds like some place you want to be. So there's a push upward, not a grand push, and it's such that the elven races up here are more able to deal with the push upward, and everyone is being pleasant about it so far. And that is why there is the push across the ocean to the other continent where the goblin races are, where because of the volcanic eruptions and land bridges there was different speciation because they were the elven races over there. And it's only the last 10 or 20,000 years because of moving of tectonic plates and land masses growing and falling apart because of volcanic activity and shifting ocean currents, that things have become, as stated in the last 10 to 20,000 years, much more pleasant on this other continent. So instead of sheer survival, now the goblins are discovering they're good farmers and they're living on the more plainlands. And the orcs are, well, they live in the more forested areas still. Very proud people, very proud of their culture, very proud of who they are and their ancestors and their heritage. They've been in touch, they are in touch and in line with nature much more. So when they have big cities with lots of orcs, you can't really tell because they're working with the environment instead of forcing themselves on the environment. There, of course, being differences in genetics and people, there are a small portion of orcs that when they see the more urban areas that are starting to crop up because of colonists from the other colonies that aren't colonists from the other colonies, from the other continent, that again, not warlike, people and goblin races are accepting of this so far. There's no war. It is a nice, gentle, we are meeting of races, push, can we exchange? But they are seeing this, and a small portion of them are finding that this speaks to them more than this, where they came from. They'll never turn their backs on this, but there's something in an urban environment that speaks to them. And so there's a small portion of orcs that live urbanly. Now over on the non-urban orcs, it's not looked upon in a negative way nor a positive way. If you decide you want to go in that direction, you're left to go, hoping you'll come back. But they're not going to tell you you're wrong and forbid you. Now that's just as a median culture-wise. You're always going to have variations. There are families and families of larger families and families as in small family groups where they may cast you out of the clan because you did that, and others where it's please keep in contact, we will come visit you, let us know where you are. We won't stay long, we don't like urban areas, but we support your decisions. And so there's that. And of course, in other places, there's different species differentiation where you've got ogres and all this. So there's all sorts of stuff. And of course, individuals being individuals, that's why you've got the happy friendly types. At the same time, you've got goblin raiders, orc raiders, hobgoblin bandits, human bandits that prey on the weak, as just that tends to happen. But it's not any great thing. Nobody's at war. Of course, there's frictions here and there, but cities are being mixed in well so far. And of course, with the dwarves, yeah, that is a worldwide thing. There is something deep in the earth that does not like, at the very least, dwarves. Because dwarves, unless let me speak again, since 2% of the entire world's population does not have the aversion to going into dwarven ruins. Only 2%. 2% of dwarves, 2% of orcs, 2% of goblins, 2% of humans. They can go down into dwarven ruins much, much longer, starting to feel the effects in about a month instead of after the first day. Dwarves will not go down there no matter what, except for those that don't feel this. Now the thing is, again, there are differences, because even though this is a worldwide thing, on the main elven continent where there has been species differentiation with more urban elves, more what is it, arboreal, for being in woods, elves, and cavern, underground elves, cave elves. They live in caverns underground. Sometimes in cavern complexes that go far below that limit, where if you tried to dig and build, you would be forced to abandon it because that thing that forced the dwarves up and out doesn't like what you've done. Except for the cave elves. There's something about working with the caves and the paths that's not fully against whatever that thing is. The vast majority of underground cave complexes have no issues, even if they go far below that arbitrary limit. Some within those have 1 or 2 caverns that are sealed off, because that will happen in a particular cavern. There are things you have to do that they have learned through trial and error, and there are things you can and cannot do. There are things you must have done or else this will happen, and there are things you can and cannot do for changes, or it's just going to fall apart. And if you stick with that, you're fine. As stated, sometimes the cavern goes, but when they leave it, seal it, it doesn't infect the entire complex, just that cavern is gone. And so the vast majority, as stated, have no cavern sealed off. Of those that are there, the majority have only 1 or 2. Now there are some cave complexes where the elves are just really in a bad shape, because for every 4 caverns they open, 3 through no fault of their own, they just have to seal off and they can't use. But every 4th one, they can. So it's a huge complex of places they can't go, with the occasional place that they can, connected by long tunnels to get around. And it all depends, and they can't tell. They just have to work with it. And they do. And it works. And then, of course, there's all the above ground stuff that, wild and crazy as that is, we're again thinking of the deserts that are because of the mountain ranges on the goblin side, where that I've been working on all sorts of stuff that, yeah, it's more of a setting for a novel now. And magic, of course, well, just like in the regular multiverses, there's no magic per se, regular multiverses. It fits in with the setting that I have with the larger one, with the whole cosmic horrors, because they're not using magic. There is no such thing as magic. It is just our electromagnetic, our electromagnetic field, our wavelength, our entire spectrum, that's the word I was looking for. Our electromagnetic spectrum is, in comparison, 1 click up from us, the visual light spectrum of another layer of reality, where they have an entire electromagnetic spectrum that the 1 click up from them is equivalent to just the visible light spectrum of them. There are forces, there are actions, there are things that can be used from down here. It's not fully understood what they are, but you don't have to understand what water is or does fully if you just want to put a water wheel in. And you can get a lot of energy out of that, even if you don't understand what water is. These people, through mnemonics and devices and, people or objects or locations or situations, are able to access forces and energies that are natural, just of a higher wavelength than us, and be able to access some small power of that to make effects happen down here that are still natural, but the effects down here appear unnatural. Magic. A magic missile that strikes you like a bullet fired from a weapon. Yeah, that's just a manipulation of forces up there that has the equivalent down here of whack, ow, or worse. So yeah, thumbs up. And of course, beings, objects, locations, and situations. The thing that chased the dwarves up and out is at the very least an existential horror, if not a cosmic horror. Even the dwarves themselves are sort of existential horrors, because they were chased up and out and they weren't humanoid, nor did they think in the way we did. When those who went down into the caverns wanted to go deep and find out what it was like and how far it went, they moved fast. This was a group of adventurers, again, that on their own just wanted to see how far it went. They yapped it up so everyone heard about it. They went into one of these places near a major city, and they went down, came back up, and told their story. And I think it was yesterday I talked about how the caverns, they go from normal to more alien and strange the further down you go, to the point that when they turned around and had to come back, it was alien, hot, oppressive, to the point that the design of everything around them was so confusing that you would, thinking you were standing up straight, follow lines of just everything that was around you and get so disoriented you would fall over, because it felt like down was down, but down stays down, and what felt like down to you, thump, you're on your side now and you just hurt yourself. It's disorienting. They finally had to turn themselves back to get out because they were afraid they wouldn't survive, because not only was it alien, oppressive, hot, but they were starting to have difficulty telling not only up from down, but left from right. And they knew if they went further, it would be so disorienting, they wouldn't survive. So they came back. Now, yeah, the evolutionary pressures and forces would not have changed these beings that the dwarves were into what they are now, stocky, humanoid beings. So there were greater pressures than just evolutionary pressures. There, of course, being those forces from above that are being twisted and used by intelligences and wills. Something helped shape them into what they are now, as they retreated, and the evolutionary forces of this more cold, less hot, less dark, less oppressive place as they got closer to the surface. And the final result of that was the stocky humanoids that they are now, who are still good miners, still good metal workers, but 98% of them refuse to go any further underground than like a basement or a cellar. So, cool setting. Now I just have to come up with more. Hopefully I'll get some adventuring done. Yay! And of course, nothing else over there, and I've been about a half hour, so thank you for watching. If you have watched, I don't have it here, but if you could type Pink Pig into the comments to let the YouTube algorithm know that people watch my videos, and to let me know that you watched that far. That would be very cool too. Thumbs up and thank you. Pink Pig. Because I have a pink pig over there on my bed, a plushie. Yay! Anyway, though, for each and every one of my Patreon patrons, thank you so very much. You are beautiful and awesome people. And even though I'm waving my arms around like I just don't care, I unfortunately do. And typing is something that really causes pain. This is rough, but not terrible. Typing is terrible and then goes downhill from there. So, when you look in the mirror, know that you are looking at someone who is beautiful and awesome. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Thumbs up. Thank you. For everybody that leaves me comments, it is appreciated. I like comments about stuff that I toss out there, because I know I toss out ideas a mile a minute. ADHD for the win. But it's nice when, if it resonates, to go, hey, that's cool. Of course, you don't have to, but it is nice. Anyway, I answer as many as I can, so thumbs up, thank you. And I will answer as many as I can. Each and every one of them is appreciated. And sorry for begging for comments, but the flesh is weak. Anyway, though, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side. And that is indeed a very, very good thing. So hopefully the first half, I'm dividing my Fallout New Vegas video into 4 pieces. Hopefully that'll work. I've been rendering the first part so far. You take care. Talk to you later. Yay.